Welcome back. I am so excited that you have joined me again in the Aligned Womb, Aligned You podcast. I'm Kate Nagai, and I am your host and womb guide on this journey. I'm here to help you to lean into the language of your menstrual cycle so that you can align yourself and awaken and activate to your womb wisdom to live the most inspired life. I am so excited to jump into this episode and to dive into today's topic. So let's get started. I am so incredibly excited today because we have one of my favorite people in the whole entire world and in North America on this podcast. And this favorite person is someone who I've never actually met in real life. And that's how special she is because I haven't even met her, and yet I love her. We have Toni Hill joining us today. She has turned into becoming one of my closest friends. We met through a course together. And in this course, we were just randomly selected to go into an accountability group. And we have never left that accountability group. Although I don't know if we've ever kept each other accountable for what we were supposed to keep each other accountable for. But we have turned into these amazing friends. And we are going to meet in a few months, which I'm so excited, in real life. Not just our weekly Zoom calls. Right. So welcome, Toni.
Thanks for having me. I feel so special to be included in your podcast. We don't keep each other accountable, but you're doing things. So that's great.
Well, you keep me accountable to having a friendship.
There you go.
Showing up every week. Like
Yes, true.
I don't have any other friend locally that I meet every week and just chat with.
I don't think other than my child, I don't think that there's anybody that I see like consistently on a weekly basis other than her. And then, you, it is nice. It's fun.
I like it.
Definitely fun. So, it's important to like have girlfriends. You forget that sometimes. I definitely did.
And I think it's great because it's time to really be real. And I don't know if maybe we have both been a little bit more real and vulnerable because we have never met in real life.
Yes. I'm convinced that that's why. Like there's something nice about that you just don't, there's something safe about it, which seems ridiculous, but I think that that's just like where we're at in our culture, that it's okay to. I went to lunch with a woman today. We had this great lunch. And two of the women were meeting for the very first time, but already knew so much about each other's lives because of social media. And the woman that I just met them both, but these are newer people that I've met within like 3 months, but we know each other's spouses' names and kids' names and where everybody lives and where everyone goes to school. And there's no small talk anymore. You just kind of like dive on into the stuff. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's strange to have friendships and create friendships these days, but it's also amazing because I would never have met you in Canada.
I know.
Cold
and
ass
Toni's in the United States, so she's always very amused by our Canadian winters and weather.
I mean, amused is a word for it. Seriously, I'm like, we have to be summertime friends because I can't deal.
I can't deal with the snow.
Friends. Oh my
I love
goodness.
it. Okay, so today's conversation, first, for anyone that's listening, this is just, I think Toni's been an exemplary person to really illustrate how learning about your womb, even though you never thought it was something that was important to learn about, can be so incredibly transformational, because this literally weaves itself into every conversation we have, which I think is so beautiful, because it's every friendship I have now is really around, every one of us talks about our cycle. And I love it. And I love how it's been so transformational for you.
Oh my gosh. So first, like it's not even a conversation with Kate until we've talked about like, where are you at in your cycle? And it came up today in that lunch. So this is so funny. Like what perfect timing. It truly came up because she had talked about, she was with this client. Her client mentioned, she's like, I'm really sorry. I don't have the words. I'm on my period. And the woman that I was with is like, oh, okay, we're there. We're talking about that. And I go, is it even a thing anymore? Before you, I would have been like, oh, that's a bit much. That's a little personal, right? But I'm like, is it a thing? Aren't we all do it. It's fine. We can talk about it. But even if you sat and said the word womb before. I'm like, ooh, like, I don't know if you saw that, like just that, like, boom, that the word just freaks me
Well,
out.
it's so funny. Maybe we need to go back a bit here to when we first met. So we were put
Yeah.
into this accountability group. There was, I think, 4 of us in the group in total. And Toni reached out to all of us saying, "Hey, I want to practice interviewing people for my podcast. Would someone like to practice?" And I was like, "Sure. I've done lots of interviews on podcasts. I can do it."
Oh yeah.
Share your response because it is so great.
Oh my gosh. So in this, I can't even remember, but like there's one of the women was a stylist and the other one, I can't even remember the other lady what she did.
Yeah.
And Kate writes back and is like, "Oh, I'll do it." And she has like womb revivalist. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, really? Are you shitting me? This is the person that's going to respond. I don't have, what am I going to do with it? I don't even like, I hate that word. It's like how some people hate moist. The word womb, I'm like, ugh. Like, I mean, this is about, I don't know, babies and stuff. And I have that. I'm done. I don't need to know about wombs. I don't want to talk about wombs. It was just weird. Um, yeah, I was not super duper excited. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to talk to her about. No idea what we're gonna do. And you have to share a clip of like our first conversation because it was so unbelievable. Like, it's so unbelievable. This thing that I didn't want to do with this person, I was like, I have nothing in common with this woman. I don't know what we're gonna say. Became life-changing in so many ways, not only for my own personal health, but obviously like our friendship. And it has grown into something. And whenever I explain to you, I'm like, one of my very closest friends in the world is right. And then I'm like, she's a menstruation coach and a fertility specialist, and like insert all the things here. I do still have a hard time saying womb when I'm talking about you, but I'm perfectly fine being like, she's a menstruation coach, which
You can call me
was
whatever.
a thing. And like
Yeah.
in the beginning, I'm like, oh, menstruation, like what? Oh, okay, that's a word I don't want to use. So yeah.
I still remember that conversation because there were so many times on that Zoom call that you paused, your mouth was completely open. You said, "Okay, back up. Explain this one more time."
Yeah.
And how did I not know this? It was so funny.
Crazy to think like, I'm a woman in my 40s. Yeah, I know my body. Okay, like I get it. It's fine. Like I know all the things. Um, and I think it was like the first 30 minutes. First of all, we only scheduled like an hour, and I think that we were on there for 2 because I'm like, wait, what? Wait, tell me that again. Like, what do you mean? Are you sure? It was really mind-blowing to learn the stuff that you had to say to me. And we've talked a little bit about the differences between Canada and the US, but here it is like, go to your doctor and you check in with your OBGYN once a year for your annual exam. And if you have any female problems, you just go, that's where you go. And you never walk in and no one ever asks you, like, what is your diet like? What is your cycle like? Like, no one ever asks you these things. It's just like, okay, if I'm seeing you, which, to use like the terms now, right? Like if I'm seeing you in like my spring versus my winter, they're going to be totally different versions of me, right? Like I'll give you the list of all of the things that I'm feeling. If I'm in my spring, like, listen, this is all the stuff we need to talk about. But if I'm like actively bleeding, or if I'm in my fall, right, then it's like, yeah, I'm good. Just like, let's get this over with. I need to go home and nap after this. So you're just almost disinterested, and they don't. I've never had anyone correlate like how I'm feeling and any of my symptoms and stuff like that. And then it's always just like, here's the birth control. That'll fix everything. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It was such a great conversation. And I was actually just sharing with my husband this past weekend, because our last call that we had, our friends accountability call, we were talking because you were just finishing your bleed.
Yes.
And you had told your boyfriend, you're like, I'm all the seasons right now. Because
Yes.
you were trying to explain to him
Yes.
what your different phases were. He's like, so where are you at? And you're like, I don't know. I'm all of them right now. I'm feeling it all.
It was so true. I've like gotten him to the point where he'll ask now. I'm telling you, our friendship has it has changed my whole world. How I talk, how I think, how I communicate with people around me. But yeah, he was like, where are you at? And I can wake up like right then, especially that day where I think even before the call, I was like, "Oh, I'm so tired. Just like, I'm out of it." And then just got energized by our call. So by the end of that, it was like, we had this great like date night and it was fun. But yeah. And I told him, I'm like, I'm all the things still, like there's like a 2-day period where where I'm coming off of it. And then like that, like the last kind of day into like the next day where I'm like all of the emotions. I'm like, I don't know what I am. I'm all the things.
I'm all the things. I'm all the
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
I'm all the
So
things.
Lee found that very humorous. He thought that was quite funny. So, which is a great conversation, I guess, right here alone is the fact that like I openly talk about my cycle. I just told my husband your cycle. Like
Yeah.
now it's like cycles are like whatever. Like he really, it didn't even faze him. He was like, okay, that we're in this conversation. Like it didn't gross him out.
Yeah.
And I think this is like, and your boyfriend, same thing. He's just like,
Yeah.
okay, we're talking about this. Like I think this is what I love about this work is that it's so, it just normalizes something that
Yeah.
I've spent my whole life feeling not normal for.
Yeah. Well, because that's what we're taught. And that's what we're all taught. And sure, like I teach my daughter, like your body is private and the things, but there has to be a conversation about it, like a more open conversation. Um, because I think that we just put the stigma on these girls that you're just supposed to suck it up and get through it. And I lived my whole life that way. I lived like the first 40, however many years of my life that way. Just suck it up. Like I'm just going to get through it. I'm just going to go through that meeting. And now knowing what I know about my period and the different ways that it affects me and the different times that I'm affected by it, I do not ever, I mean, it is really, really, it's an important meeting if I'm scheduling it the week that I have my period. And I never did that before, but it's so incredibly helpful now because I'm not sitting through a meeting forgetting my words and, just feeling totally deflated. And you get in there and I'm like, okay, I've got to be on. Let me get like 14 Starbucks before I go in here, so I can have the energy to get through this. Knowing how to live your life and I'm not like a guru of it by any stretch. I just know, like, I definitely know my 1 week. I'm like, nope, nothing's happening. We're not doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. And my boyfriend knows, like, don't come near me. I can't. They just can't. Like, we're door dashing everything. None of the laundry's getting done. And I'm just going to chill. And I'm going to do the least amount of work possible to get through this. So
Toni, you can say that you don't know your other ones as well, but you sent me a text message when you were on vacation to say living up my inner spring right now because so you may not know all of it, but
yeah, I don't think I pay attention to the calendar always as much as I want to. Like I'm not a very consistent person with things. So I love the wheel and the months and when I'm using those. But then I can kind of feel it when I'm feeling like super energetic and I'm a big ideas person. And I obviously talk a lot. So when I'm feeling that, I'm like, oh, I know where I am. I know where I'm at in my cycle.
And I think like the circle charting thing and the different ways that you can chart, they're all really great because they're all tools to start getting us to tune into our body. Yeah. But ultimately the task is without charting it, can you just feel your shifts, right? Can you just feel like, ooh, that's a little bit different. I know what's happening there, right? So
yeah, and I think that's kind of what I've grown into a little bit. I could definitely tell my ADD doesn't allow me to like really know the things that's happening. And I'm like, shoot, this is happening now. So I know I'm going to get my period in a day or two, right? Or like after my period is over. When we like I said, we talked last week and I was like, I'm all the things right now. But this week, like super energized. I mean, not right now because I was up late with Halloween, but you just feel different. And now I know I'm like, oh, okay, this is where I'm at. It's my spring. So I know that all of my ideas are coming and all of my stuff. And even knowing honestly, like when to have date night, because I don't know how many of your listeners are this, but I live in sweats and hats and ball caps and dry shampoo. So it's so funny because my boyfriend will say like, when we first started dating, remember when you used to get dressed up? And I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't want to get dressed up unless I'm going for work. So now I know I can schedule like a date night in my summer because I'll feel like, all right, I want to be seen. Right. And I know why that is now, which is great. So it just kind of helps in a lot of the stuff. I think
Yeah.
for me, it has. And this is all stuff I didn't realize or know before talking
Well,
to
even
you.
for myself, like I always kind of have an idea in my head. Sometimes I'm off by a day or two, but my son got sick yesterday, spontaneously out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel all the ucky feelings rising up of like, I've got stuff to do. I don't have time for this. I'm exhausted. And I was just really snappy.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt really like even Lee came home and he wanted to ask me a bunch of questions. And I'm like, can you not see right now? I'm dealing with a sick child. I'm making supper and I'm trying to get everyone ready to go trick or treating. And I still don't know what I'm going to do with the sick child. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, you can't add more onto my plate. And I just felt myself really snappy or edgy, right? Not
Yeah.
even snappy yet, edgy. And I was like, I wonder if I'm in my fall already. Like, am I already day 19? And I looked at my calendar and I wasn't. I was day 17. But the sleepless night, the night before with my son,
Mm-hmm.
made me exhausted
Yeah.
enough that I was feeling drained. But then I could also feel that I was so close. I was only a day off from my inner fall that I was like, I'm just transitioning early. Like that's what's
Yeah.
happening. This has partially to do with lack of sleep, but this also has a lot to do with the fact that I'm just entering a different phase of my cycle. And I
Yep.
don't want to do any of these things.
Yep.
I don't want to talk to people. And of course, I also book like this is the mistake of the inner summer. Inner summer was like, yeah, everyone can bring a friend over to our house and we can all go trick-or-treating as a big group. So then I was feeding other people's kids supper, which, lovely kids. I love these kids. I
Sure.
really do. And I'm sure nobody else in the house felt it, but I felt like I'm not the fun mom that I usually am. Like
Well, yeah. I
I'm
think
tired.
every mom is guilty. Like who show me a mom that is not guilty of like offering to do something and then doing it and they're like, oh shit, can I really do this to myself? Right? Like
Yeah.
every I'm gonna go with every parent for sure, but definitely every mom is like, and it doesn't mean that you don't love these kids and they're not lovely families. They're just like, why did I do this to myself right
Yeah.
now? Yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
queen of that. So
But then on the flip side, like I was in the height of ovulation this weekend and we had company that stayed at our house all weekend. Well, I shouldn't say all weekend. They came here Saturday. They were from out of town. So we had them Saturday, Sunday, and Monday morning here. And then on Friday, my sister-in-law, just out of the blue, not out of the blue. I messed up the schedule. I forgot that she asked for the kids.
uh,
So I totally forgot. But then she was like, hey, are the kids coming over for supper? And I was like, I wasn't planning on it, but I'm more than happy to drop them off. So
right.
then Lee and I had like this surprise date evening that we had nothing planned. So we went up for supper and then came home and cleaned the house for our company before they arrived.
Oh, that's
Um,
so sexy.
I
Sweet.
know. So like in my inner summer, I literally got date night, kid free time, and then company that's really fun. And then the next day on the Sunday, we had all went to the water park for 7 hours of water slides, up and down stairs, wave pool, the whole works.
Don't you guys have like 14 feet of snow?
No,
Like, why are you at a water park? What?
West Edmonton Mall. We have the fun stuff there. It's all indoors.
Oh my
But
God.
like I felt alive the whole time. Like honestly, this weekend was like the Canadian version of Disneyland, maybe.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
just like I got all the things I would recommend for people to do in their summer, all in like 3 days.
Oh,
Date night, fun, lots of laughs, entertainment, hosting people, played with the kids in a way that brought out my inner child.
right.
But then Tuesday
Sex,
happened.
like sex. That's also like a really,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it, like
Yeah.
that's a really big thing for me. Like it just is. I have moments of like, don't touch me. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say it. It's when I'm having sex, and I've said this before, I was like, I should do this more. But like getting into the mood. And so I can actually, this is, he'll never listen to this, so it's fine. But like I can actually plan like, okay, I know I'm going to be feeling good. So I do like, I should like front load some days because I know that I'm not going to
Yeah,
want you anywhere near me later. And that's okay. So
exactly.
one of the things I try to work on in there a little bit more often.
These are all the ways your cycle can benefit you.
Right?
But then Tuesday happened, and I was like, wow, the Kate that existed 2 days
Oh,
ago she is like, exit the building, and she has promised not to come back.
She's gone.
She's gone. I don't know who that person was, that fun person. She's gone.
It's delightful.
But it was so interesting because like yesterday, like a part of it was having a sick child and lack of sleep, but majority of it really was that in my inner fall, I become like a task manager. Like it's like I look around and I assess and I'm like, all the shit needs to happen before I bleed. And I just want to get stuff done. So like even me snapping at my husband last night, who just wanted some answers to some questions. I was like, I don't have time for these questions.
Right.
Like this requires me to pause and to communicate with you and to want to engage with you. And I don't want any of the above. I just want to do these 10 sticky notes right at this moment. Please do not bug me. Right? And so, and it's really interesting because like he knows my cycle now, that he's just like, all right, this is the Kate that's here. I will ask all these questions. Like it was fun playing with you on the weekend.
Right.
But now I'll just give you space and pretend I'm single for a little bit.
Right. It's like when I drink or something, if I say something that I want to do, and I tell Trip all the time, I'm like, you need to take that up with drunk Toni. Like I don't know. You talk to her. Like talk to winter Toni. Like when she comes back next month, you can have a whole conversation with her about why she did whatever she did. Like talk to summer Toni about why she planned this.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I totally get you. So
yeah,
it's fun. I find that my life feels not even more aligned, but that I feel like I have control over the life that I'm living. And maybe that's because I'm just a control freak, but I like that I know that I can have the like extreme amount of fun without any stress, any worry, if I just plan properly. And I also know that I can be really efficient and really get a lot of stuff done. And then I also know that I can take time and downregulate and take care of me. Like I feel like my cycle has given me the ability to really plan life, to actually really enjoy all phases of life versus feeling like you're constantly in that peak and valley of I'm overwhelmed, I'm consumed by stress, I'm unhappy, to I'm totally excited.
I think that like for me, that's probably the greatest thing that I've learned from knowing you is I've always struggled with, that whole, like we're all too hard on ourselves. I think that women are, but I really struggled with it. Like, man, why can I get like, why can't I be consistent? Why can I be efficient one day and not? And it does something to, we all talk about this, like your mental health and your self-talk and things of that nature. And now it helps you it's really helped me to understand. And I'm not nearly as hard on, I still beat myself up, don't get me wrong, but I'm not nearly as hard on myself because I know why I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. And I've absolutely given myself permission to just like wing it. The week or the couple of days that I'm bleeding, like I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I don't feel guilty anymore for ordering my daughter DoorDash. I do if I'm like in my spring and summer where I'm like, just get your stuff together, right? Like just make some time. But no, I really do. It has helped so much with just that. And again, I think this is just like baseline, like being a woman 101, right? Like, how do we not know this? How do we escape? How do we live so long, never having been taught this? Because it just helps in about 1,000 different ways. We talked about how it helps, adolescent girls who are just coming into their period. Why isn't this being taught in schools? Should girls be taking these important tests and things during that time frame? And they're things that we've never thought about because we've never talked about it, because you don't talk about it because it's this taboo subject. Like, don't put it out. Everyone's gonna be fine. Just act like it's not there. And it sucks because it's absolutely there, and it affects every single aspect of your life. It really truly does. Work, how you parent, your relationship with your partner, your mental and emotional health. So I love that I know this. And look at this. I would have never, if anyone told me that one of my greatest friends in the world would be a womb revivalist, I'd be like, yeah, right, okay, sure. Sure. Right.
Well, even a year ago, would you have thought that you were on a podcast talking about your womb or your menstrual cycle?
No. I still don't get me wrong. I still act like I'm not talking about my womb because it's just, I'm like, but it's only for babies. Like, that's what I thought, truly. Maybe like that's where the baby is. And you're like,
Mhm.
Toni, and you just said that a couple, you're like, well, actually that's your uterus. So, right.
Yes.
See? But no, it's I never would have, not ever. You could have told me like I'll give you $1,000 if you talk on a podcast about it. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Well,
But
and
no,
I
it's
think this has
important.
been one of the great things. Well, one of the great things that's helped me out a lot in this past year too, of knowing you a little bit. We've known each other for just a little bit over a year,
Yeah.
like a year and a month. I guess it's not that much more,
Yeah.
but in
Aw.
that, I know we've had like a friend
That's what
anniversary
a
that we totally
friend's
missed.
anniversary. Is that what it's called?
I think so,
Or not?
something like that. But even in that time, you have been you've been such a great resource of like, okay, hold up. What's that question? I've got a million things that's going through my head right now. And all of those little pauses or insights that you've had have helped me go, okay, this is where the information is lacking. This is what
Yeah.
what people that I would think that I would want to work with want to know, right? And so like you asking so many questions about birth control and you asking so much about how do I advocate for my health? That's all what created the Healed Cycle course. And then just recently you were like, okay, you need to create a program. I need it done now because our daughters are literally like 7 days apart in birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I know that your daughter's going through this phase, mine is, and you're separated. So you're like, I need my ex to understand how he has to support her in these shifts and these changes and through puberty. Like he needs to be educated on the cycle, even though we're no longer together. So can you create a course for dads? And I also don't know how to talk about this. So can you help me talk about it with my daughter? Which is what created the Raising Empowered Girls course. And so like I just think it's so interesting for a year ago, somebody who wasn't even thinking about that this is an important thing
Mm-hmm.
to explore, all of a sudden going, okay, my boyfriend needs to know about it. My ex needs to understand it so he can be a better parent. I need to understand it for my work life and for my own mental health. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you've asked questions around cycle awareness as well with ADHD. Like you're fully invested in seeing, and I wouldn't say fully invested as like you're going to make the biggest life changes and do it all. You want the most information to have a better understanding in a simple way of how you can impact your life. And it's been a huge help with me. It's been a great resource because then I'm like, okay, here's where we're going to go with this.
You definitely met like the baseline of like, I don't want to know about this, but I'm slightly, maybe I'll listen, slightly intrigued, like on the fence, right? Like I'm like on the fence with the whole thing. That's what, like when I met you, and now I'm like, wait, everybody. And anytime I hear something, I can't even tell you how many times in a week that I reference. So listen, I've got this girlfriend, and because we talk about things, and I didn't even notice it before you. Like we talk about things often, and we're just sitting there, and it's like, and I want to be like, so where are you at in your cycle? You know, and I have with a couple of people, and they look at me like, what? I'm like, here's why I ask you. Okay, this is why I'm telling you this. Um, but no, it's I think that for me, one of the driving factors, I mean, sure, there's like my own health, but like, let's be honest, I want to try and be the best mom that I can. And I have this daughter. My ex we've got a great relationship and he's wonderful, but he has zero interest. Like he's tapping out. Like the first sign of like blood or menstruation, and he's gonna be like, nope, not nope. This needs to happen on like the Mondays and Tuesdays when you have her, right? He's like, this week, do you want to keep her the whole week? He's totally tapping out, but he needs to know this and be able to support her. And he's been such like I just brought it up to him the other day. I was like, so listen, we really need to schedule that. And he's like, oh, stop, it gives me the whole like, ooh, thing. But it's important that she learns early so that she doesn't have to deal with the stuff that like I've dealt with and all of these misconceptions out there. Just being able to talk to my sister who has her daughter's older than mine, teenage years and whatnot, to my other niece, my brother's daughter, who's 22. And these girls are at such different ages and they're being approached with so many different things. And there's so much about their periods. My one niece, my older niece, she has very heavy, very painful periods. And they asked her to get like they told her, well, what's all that is the IUD, or you can get the implant. Like, what? That's what they like. That's the advice that they gave her. This is a 22-year-old girl. Like, why is that the answer to that? Right. And luckily, she turned both of those things down and was like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'll try and figure this out a different way. But, my sister's 15-year-old daughter, they went in, cramps, acne, here's some birth control. Huh? What? Like, that's it? That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's not like go home, rest, stretch, heat, take a warm bath. Like none of that. They didn't even ask. What have you tried? What have you done? Like, shouldn't that be the last resort? And it's not. It's the first line of defense here. And it's disturbing. And I probably, to be honest with you, I don't know that I would have made different choices had I not run into you. I'm like totally in love with the universe that you and I connected, because it has really given me the opportunity to help my daughter understand her body and listen to her body and be able to understand what it is that she's feeling, and that there are, other ways to deal with these problems versus just the doctor's not always right. They're just not. Sorry.
They're humans. They're trained with a specific lens. So it's not the only lens. And I think sometimes what we forget, I don't know where in society it got put in our heads that, well, at least for me, I don't know why I see doctors and police officers as the biggest two authorities in the world that you never challenge.
Of course.
And I have no idea, like, whoever put that in my head that you're not allowed to challenge these people, because they are just people, and they are just people that are trained by a school with a certain thought process. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that there is no other way. It doesn't mean that their way's wrong. It just means that that's not the only way though. Right. And so I think this is where we've lost the ability to really explore options as women, is because we haven't been told, or really not even told, we haven't been given permission or the space to go, it's okay to explore. It's okay to, and explore about everything. Like, explore alternatives to birth control, explore different healing processes for your womb space, as much as it might be really new agey versus like really medical, that you have options. None are right or wrong. There's just a lot. Explore sexuality, explore whatever it is that you want. As we get really caught into this, be a good girl. And I think this is when we get caught in that be a good girl, we don't challenge anyone. Yeah. And then our body pays the price, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, we pay the price in so many different ways. And if there's one thing, I tell my daughter this all the time, the only thing that you can ever control, ever, is what you say and what you do. That's it. There's literally nothing else that you can control in this world. You're my child. And from the second you were born, I couldn't control you. I couldn't stop you from crying. I could help you. But the moment that I wanted you to stop, I couldn't just be like, stop crying. And you would do that, right? Like, I needed to like help you get through that emotion from the second you were born. I couldn't control any of it. So what a gift to be able to teach them to kind of look more inward and listen to how they're feeling, and listen to even just like listening to her gut and her intuition and making decisions and smart choices. And, I'm trying to teach her to, do that with friends and decisions that you want to make. And I think that the more support we can give these young girls, certainly the better off we're all going to be. And that all starts with our parents. And let's be honest, like, it really does start with our moms. It just does. I mean, and even boys being able to grow up, not, what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess with a better understanding of like, this is just something that happens and it's perfectly natural, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to, usually I was talking to a colleague of mine. He's a cute little kid. He's like 25 years old. And it was myself and another woman, another mom. We have daughters the same age. Her daughter's 10. And we, again, brought you up this whole thing. I'm like, you have to take this course. It's going to be great. And she's like, I don't know what to say. Like, here's some tampons, right? Like, here's a pad. I don't know. Like, you have to take this course. And he's standing there and he's like, not in the conversation, but listening. And I could tell he was super uncomfortable. And I turned to him and was like, wait, is this like not a thing that you, and he's like, I've never had this conversation. I'm like, you have sisters, you have a mom. how did you escape this? You're a 25-year-old man. Don't you have a girlfriend? Have you ever had sex before? Like, you have to know that this happens. But he was so unbelievably uncomfortable with us talking about our daughters getting near that starting point. And I just thought, all right, well, there's that. We just have so many places that we can start, right? Like so many. But
Yes.
for me, it's definitely as a mom. So learning where not only where I'm at, because clearly that's approaching like the really fun time. But helping her so that she doesn't get caught up in that. You know, I really applaud my niece for being able to tell the doctors no, that that's not something that she wanted to do. And really advocate for herself, because she's a 22-year-old girl and you go into the doctor's office and that's what happens. And for her to say, yeah, I don't think that that's the best thing for me. I don't think I want to do that. But that was really brave and really, I'm proud of her.
Yeah. Well, and I would say too, because I remember that conversation that you had with both of your nieces. So as much as you say, like, this is really helping you to explore how to support your daughter, you're also showing up as a different aunt in a way too. Like you're spreading the wealth of the menstrual cycle wisdom. So because you do have an impact on your nieces. And I think for anybody that's listening and is contemplating, like, this isn't just for our own body, this isn't just for our daughters, this is for everyone to know, because it can impact your nieces, it can impact your sisters, your coworkers. Like, I think back to when I used to work in an office and how I was like, oh my God, what's her problem today, right? Versus knowing what I know now, I could have been like, oh shit, you know what? I can tell that there's a big shift in personality here because she's normally not like this. And how about, rather than bugging her with really
Yeah.
non-important things, I just leave her alone for 4 days
Yeah.
and then go back to her in 4 days. Like, watch
Yeah.
for the shift of energy, because you can tell when people are worn out and when people are like, hey, I'm here.
Absolutely.
And so how I could have supported her better, or even been like, can I offload you with something? Like, I've got a free extra time here. What can I take off your desk? Or just saying,
1000%.
yeah, or just going in there and saying, you can close your door. You don't have to talk
Yeah.
to anybody. Like,
Yes.
just say it. I'm giving you permission to close your door and not talk to anybody. And so I think, like, this work, it changes how we interact with women, that we start to see a different way of existing.
Yeah.
And I think it's super important for guys to know this shit too. Like, for husbands, and so that they know how to support not only their wives, but their daughters if they have it, how to create space in the workplace. Like, I remember when I did the whole module in my sisterhood membership around work life, and the research, it blew my mind, some of the research that I discovered about how we should be structuring a woman's work
Oh my
month,
gosh.
not even work day, work month. And my husband's a manager. And I went to him and I said, okay, from a guy's perspective, this is what the research is saying. This makes complete sense in my menstrual cycle coaching mindset. As a manager and a male, would you get on board with this if I was to go into your company and recommend a period policy that looked like this? And he's like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Wouldn't affect me. And so I'm just like,
That's
this
so
is what
awesome.
needs to change,
Yep.
right? This is how we can start to alter the way. And like, even right now with this company, they're in a little bit of an employment crunch right now where they need more staff and specific trade staff. Like, they need engineers. And he was like, why don't we start hiring stay-at-home mom engineers who had to leave their career to start a family? Because they want to work, but they want to put their family first. So if we make it like a 10 to 2 job, like, we can hire two of them and they're going to be productive and they're going to get stuff done. And like, so like, he's thinking outside the box now too, of like, how do we support women who are professionals or even non-professionals if you haven't gone to university? Like, how can we support women employment in a way that makes sense, that also increases productivity and also supports their wellness and their needs and their dreams? And so I just think that menstrual cycle coaching, the biggest thing is that it's taught me to think outside the box on everything. All right, listeners, this conversation was so much fun with Toni, and we went way over the time that we thought we were going to need. So we have cut this into 2 parts. Join us again next week to hear the rest of our conversation and all of the insights and shares and wins that both Toni and I have experienced on this journey of learning about our menstrual cycle. For way too long, as women, we have been guided to hate our menstrual cycle and to curse our hormones. We have lost the art of seeing the inner power of being cyclical. So, if this podcast is inspiring you and waking up a new curiosity of how your cycle can be your superpower, I invite you to check out the She Sisterhood. This is a monthly membership that will align you to your unique rhythm through aligned womb yoga practices, cycle coaching on how to weave your cycle wisdom into everyday life, and to be part of a community of women that are awakening to their inner power. Remember, womb wisdom equals connection to self, which ultimately equals inspired living. And if you love this episode, don't forget to rate and review. I love seeing how this information is transforming your life.